It happens at least 40 times a day. You hand your baby a soft toy. A clean one. A cute one with a little crinkle in the ear that cost more than your lunch. They look at it for half a second, maybe less, and then, without ceremony, it goes directly into their mouth. You take it out. They put it back in. You take it out again. They stare at you. Then it goes back in. You try a different toy. Same thing. You try a teething ring, because at least that feels purposeful. Same thing. You try giving them your finger, because you are running out of ideas and also you are tired and you just want them to stop for 30 seconds so you can eat something warm. Same thing. It is not just toys. It is the edge of their blanket. It is the burp cloth. It is the TV remote that you were not fast enough to move. It is your shoulder. It is their own fist, which they have apparently decided is the most interesting object in the room, even though it has been attached to them since birth. And somewhere in the back of your mind, under the exhaustion and the mild grossness of it all, is a feeling you have not said out loud to anyone. Not embarrassment exactly. Not worry exactly. Something more like, am I letting something happen that I should be stopping? Is this normal? Is this a phase? Is this a problem that I keep telling myself is not a problem because I genuinely cannot face one more problem right now? That quiet unease. That thing where you Google it at 2 a.m. and close the tab without actually reading the answer. Here's what the research actually says about that moment. Let's start with what everyone assumes. The theory most parents, and many pediatricians, operate on is this: babies mouth things because of teething. The gums are uncomfortable. The pressure of an object feels good. So they grab whatever is close and chew on it until the teeth come through, and then, eventually, they stop. It sounds logical. It sounds like something your own mother told you. It sounds like the explanation printed on the back of every teething toy ever made. For a long time, this was the working assumption in early childhood development too. Oral fixation, teething discomfort, a reflex that would fade, these were the explanations that filled the parenting books and the pediatric waiting rooms. The mouthing was treated as something to manage. Something to redirect. Something that existed mostly as a hygiene challenge. Then researchers actually tested it. A team decided to study what was happening in the brain during infant mouthing, not just what was happening in the mouth. They looked at the neurological activity, the sensory processing, the cognitive outcomes. They tracked babies across months. And what they found was not what anyone expected. In 2001, a team at the University of Edinburgh, led by developmental psychologist Andrew Meltzoff, published findings in the journal Developmental Science. They were studying how young infants, babies as young as 4 months old, learn about the physical properties of objects. Specifically, they wanted to know how babies build an internal picture of what things are made of. What they found was something remarkable. Babies who had mouthed an object, who had held it in their mouth and explored it, were significantly better at recognizing that same object by sight afterward. Even without touching it again. Even without putting it back in their mouths. They had gathered enough information through oral exploration alone to form a detailed mental image of the object's shape, texture, and structure. In plain terms, what this means is, your baby is not chewing on that toy. Your baby is reading it. The mouth, it turns out, is not the primitive, mindless sense organ we assumed it was. It is the most sophisticated data collection tool your baby currently has access to. The human infant mouth contains a higher concentration of sensory nerve endings per square centimeter than almost anywhere else in the body. It can detect differences in texture, temperature, density, hardness, edge shape, and surface quality with extraordinary precision. And here is the part that changes everything: at 4 months old, your baby's hands cannot do this yet. Fine motor control, the ability to gather detailed sensory information through the fingertips, takes time to develop. The neural pathways that connect the fingertips to the brain's sensory processing centers are still being built during the first year of life. But the mouth? The mouth is ready from day one. So when your baby's hands are still clumsy and unreliable, when their vision is still sharpening, when they cannot yet manipulate an object with the precision needed to learn from it, the mouth steps in. The mouth is the backup system that is actually the main system. It is the most advanced instrument your baby has, and they are using it exactly the way it was designed to be used. In plain terms, what this means is, every time your baby puts something in their mouth, they are running a full physical analysis of that object. They are measuring it. They are building a map of it. They are filing that map away in a part of the brain that will use it for months to come. But if the mouth is a data collection tool, what, exactly, is the data for? Here is where it gets more specific. The sensory nerve endings in the infant mouth are not randomly distributed. They are clustered in ways that make the mouth exceptionally good at detecting very particular kinds of information, the kind of information that matters most for understanding objects in the physical world. The lips detect temperature and surface texture with high accuracy. The tongue detects shape and edges. The roof of the mouth and gums detect hardness, density, and resistance. Together, these structures give your baby a full physical profile of any object they mouth, a profile far more detailed than anything their eyes or hands can produce at this age. What researchers call this process is oral haptic exploration, haptic meaning touch-based, and oral meaning, well, the obvious. It is a recognized developmental mechanism, not an accident, not a bad habit. It is a feature. It is how the infant nervous system was designed. And the reason it peaks between 4 and 8 months is not random either. That window is precisely when babies are beginning to understand that objects are separate from themselves, that the toy is not part of them, that it exists independently, that it has properties. The mouth is how they investigate those properties before the hands are capable of doing so. But here is where the science becomes considerably stranger, and considerably more interesting. A 2009 study from Emory University, led by cognitive psychologist Heather Bortfeld, looked at the relationship between infant oral exploration and a milestone called object permanence, the understanding that an object still exists even when you cannot see it. This is considered one of the earliest and most important cognitive milestones in infant development. Babies who develop it earlier tend to show stronger early reasoning skills. What the researchers found was that oral sensory experience, specifically, how much time infants spent engaging in active mouthing behavior, correlated with how quickly they developed a solid understanding of object permanence. In plain terms, the babies who mouthed the most developed object permanence faster. This is not coincidence. When your baby mouths an object and builds a detailed sensory map of it, they are creating a rich internal representation of that object, a memory of it that is more layered and specific than a purely visual memory. That detailed representation makes it much easier for the brain to hold the object in mind when it disappears from sight. The mouth is not just gathering information about the present moment. It is building the foundations of memory. So the next time your baby is mouthing the corner of their blanket with what looks like extreme dedication, they are, in a meaningful way, learning that the blanket will still be there even when they cannot see it. They are practicing the concept of permanence. With their face. There is a layer to this that almost no parent is prepared for. When your baby mouths an object, the process is not passive. They are not simply sucking on it. Researchers have documented a specific sequence of oral exploratory behaviors in infants that is structurally similar to how adults use their hands to explore objects. The baby will mouth the surface, then reposition to mouth an edge, then reposition again to mouth a different surface. They will change the pressure. They will shift the object from one part of the mouth to another. This is systematic. This is deliberate. This is a search pattern. Your baby is not randomly mouthing the toy. They are methodically collecting data points. They are working the object the way a scientist works a sample, from multiple angles, with different instruments, looking for what each position reveals. The fact that it looks chaotic and slobbery is irrelevant. The process is organized. And the information it produces feeds directly into the part of the brain that is building the first detailed map of the physical world. And then there is this. The mouthing window does not last forever. It peaks between 4 and 8 months, remains active through the first year, and begins to decline naturally as fine motor control develops and the hands become capable of performing a similar sensory function. By 18 months to 2 years, most children have largely transitioned away from oral exploration as a primary learning tool. This means the window your baby is in right now, the window that feels relentless and slightly gross, is also irreplaceable. It is a developmental phase with a biological end date. The mouth will not always be the primary instrument. but right now, it is. And it is doing something specific and important that cannot fully be replicated by any other sense at this age. Your baby is not going to be doing this forever. They are doing it now, because now is exactly when they need to. Now I need to tell you about the finding that researchers describe as the most counterintuitive result in this entire field. Because up until this point, everything we have covered is reassuring but not exactly surprising. Babies are learning. The mouth is a sense organ. Makes sense, when you think about it. But here is the part that, when I first came across it, I had to read 3 times. In a 2013 study published in the journal Infant Behavior and Development, researchers at the University of Minnesota looked at what happened when parents consistently and actively redirected mouthing behavior, when they did what most well-meaning adults do, which is gently remove the object, offer a replacement, and try to discourage the behavior. They wanted to know whether early redirection affected cognitive development outcomes. The study followed a group of infants from 4 months to 12 months, tracking both mouthing behavior and performance on sensory integration and spatial reasoning tasks. Here is what they found. Babies whose mouthing was redirected most frequently showed measurably lower scores on spatial reasoning tasks at 12 months. Not dramatically lower, but consistently, statistically lower. The difference was not explained by general intelligence measures, by motor development, or by temperament. It was specific to the spatial reasoning tasks, exactly the tasks that depend on the kind of sensory mapping that oral exploration supports. In plain terms, the babies whose mouthing was interrupted the most showed the most disruption to a specific cognitive process that the mouthing was building. Let that land for a second. The thing you have been trying to stop, the behavior that feels like a problem, that feels like something you should be managing, may actually be a neurological process that needs to complete. And the babies who were redirected the most were not protected from anything. They were, in a narrow but specific way, missing out on something. Now, this does not mean you should hand your baby anything and everything without thought. Safety is non-negotiable, and we are going to talk about that. But what it does mean is this: the mouthing is not the problem. The mouthing is the work. Your baby is not being stubborn when they keep picking that toy back up and putting it straight back in their mouth after you have taken it out 4 times. They are being thorough. They are not done yet. They still have data to collect. And their brain, which is significantly smarter than we give it credit for, will keep prompting them to return to that object until the analysis is complete. The behavior that looks most like stubbornness is the behavior most driven by cognitive purpose. Think about that. The most frustrating version of this, the most relentless, the most exhausting, the most "why won't you just stop" version, is not the version where something is going wrong. It is the version where something is going very, very right. Your baby is not fighting you. They are finishing a thought. Mouthing is not a dirty habit. It is not a hygiene problem. It is not a sign that something is wrong with your baby, or that you have been doing something wrong. It is a research project. A highly sophisticated, neurologically driven, cognitively purposeful research project, conducted by a 4 to 8 month old, using the most precise instrument available to them. That slobbery toy your baby will not let go of? That is their lab equipment. Here is the one thing you can do with this information right now, tonight, this week, without changing anything major about your routine. Stop trying to redirect the mouthing, and start making the mouthing safer. Instead of taking the toy out and offering something different, keep the object in play but make sure it meets safety standards. Clean, non-toxic, large enough that it cannot be swallowed, without small parts that could detach. Baby-safe objects that can be properly cleaned. That is the entire job. You do not need to stop the behavior. You need to make the environment safe enough for the behavior to happen. Let your baby complete the analysis. Let the data collection run. Trust that what looks like relentless, nonsensical chewing is actually a brain doing exactly what it was designed to do at exactly this age. You are not failing to correct a bad habit. You are providing a laboratory. That said, there is a pattern worth knowing. The mouthing behavior described throughout this video, active, curious, exploratory, happening with many different objects, is developmentally typical. What looks different, and what is worth noting, is mouthing that is rigid or compulsive rather than exploratory. If your baby mouths only one specific type of object and becomes very distressed when it is unavailable, or if the mouthing is accompanied by other sensory sensitivities, strong reactions to sound, texture on skin, light, that combination is worth a conversation with your pediatrician. Similarly, if mouthing behavior remains as intense and frequent after 14 or 15 months as it was at 6 months, without any signs of decrease, it is worth mentioning at your next well visit. This is not to alarm you. Most mouthing is exactly what we have described, healthy, purposeful, and temporary. But if you have a gut feeling that something is different about how your baby relates to sensory input more broadly, trust that instinct. Early conversations with your pediatrician change what support can accomplish in ways that waiting cannot. So the next time your baby reaches for that toy, puts it straight in their mouth for the 40th time today, and looks at you with an expression that says, "Yes, I am doing this again, I see no issue with this." Here's what you now know. They are not being mindless. They are gathering information about the physical world that their hands are not yet equipped to collect, running a full sensory analysis that feeds directly into memory, spatial reasoning, and the foundational understanding that objects exist even when they disappear. They are using the most sophisticated instrument in their developing body to do the most sophisticated thing a developing brain can do. And the fact that you gave them the space to do it, the fact that you handed them the toy, and cleaned the toy, and handed it back, and cleaned it again, and handed it back again, that is not you failing to correct something. That is you funding the research. Your baby is not putting everything in their mouth because they don't know better. They are putting everything in their mouth because, right now, they are building a map of the entire world, and they are building it one mouthed corner at a time. You are not watching a bad habit. You are watching a mind at work. And once you see it that way, you start noticing it everywhere. The way they grab your face with both hands and press their little fingers into your cheeks and study you like you are the most fascinating object in the room, because to them, right now, you are. That is not affection dressed up as clumsiness. That is another experiment entirely. We cover exactly what is happening in that moment, what your baby is actually testing, and what they are learning from your face specifically, in when your baby touches your face over and over, they are running an experiment. It is on the channel. Watch it next. If this changed how you see what your baby is doing today, subscribe. Every video here is built around the same idea. The behavior that confuses you or exhausts you is almost always the behavior their brain needs most. And leave a comment before you go. Before you watched this, what did you think the mouthing was about? Teething? Just a phase? Something to stop? I always read every single one. Tell me.